Hello Collaboracadabra and welcome to Thursday. This Thursday on Fanfiction Week I'll be reading to you a piece by Buffalo Nickel Girl. It is entitled, I Gotta Believe. It's about Parappa the Rapper. If you don't know what Parappa the Rapper is, that's okay. It was a game that came out a while ago on the PlayStation 1. It was basically a rhythm-based game where you had to push buttons in time with your character's rapping. And your character is Parappa the Rapper. It's like a little dog who wears like a beanie and he raps and solves his problem with rapping. And I found this in the angst section of fanfiction.net, so we're going to be in for something good. The sun was on the horizon, and thin beams of light poured through the pine needles and into Parappa's apartment window. It was a rather chilly morning, so he turned up the heater, but he was still wearing a sweater to keep himself warm, after having risen from his bed shirtless to greet the cold. The room was silent, save for the sound of eggs frying on the stove, but Parappa wasn't the one attending to them. No, it was PJ. They'd been sitting there for a good 5 minutes, neither one speaking, simply being there, within each other's company. Of course, that wasn't really the case, and they both knew it. But neither one was inclined to say much about that. Parappa, having passed out from his injuries and exhaustion in a dark alleyway, where he was almost sure nobody would find him, had woken up that morning in a soft, comfortable bed, with his wounds bandaged up, and he had come downstairs to find his best friend PJ cooking some eggs. He hadn't asked how he found him yet, but he knew PJ knew something was up. He wondered if maybe he was waiting for him to start the conversation. He decided to experiment. He put down the newspaper he'd been reading and looked over at PJ. He was wearing a large, baggy shirt and some sagging shorts, neither of which seemed that he had changed out of. He was also sporting more injuries than the last time Parappa saw him, and that hadn't been too long at all. But PJ told him several times that things were fine, and that there was nothing to worry about. And even if Parappa didn't believe him, that he didn't want to do anything that might cause him to get hurt any more than he already was. It wasn't a matter of not caring. It was a matter of caring about his safety. But still. So PJ, what's up? He didn't turn, but Parappa could hear that PJ was frowning just by the sound of his voice. Not much, he replied flatly. He shook the pen a bit before releasing it and turning to him. His eyes were dark, but not angrily so. Simply stern. And before I ask you and you start giving me shut about how things are fine, how about you tell me the truth, Parappa? Parappa stared at him for a minute, surprised by his sudden firmness. This wasn't like PJ at all. Then again, this wasn't Parappa's PJ anymore. Parappa knew that the years had hardened his friend, and that he wouldn't be the happy, carefree boy that Parappa always knew. Thanks to the circumstances, he couldn't be that sort of boy anymore. If he were, he would be that much more vulnerable to whatever it was that his associates decided to do to him. As though PJ could read his thoughts. His gaze intensified, and Parappa had to look away. He realized then that he hadn't answered the question, but when he opened his mouth to speak, no words came out. Parappa, PJ said again, more sternly this time. And only Parappa frowned. It doesn't matter, he said quickly, attempting to stand but stumbling, his legs still in pain from the other day. Damn it, he muttered, before looking at PJ. And even if I did tell you, you just say I need help. But you know something, PJ? You need the help more than I do. With that, he straightened, taking out the gun he concealed in his sweater and sliding it across the table to PJ. PJ frowned. I told you, man, I don't do that anymore. Not after what happened. Yeah, but that's what they all say, Parappa said sharply, turning his back to PJ. But sometimes, you gotta do what you gotta do. He could hear PJ's footsteps, and he turned quickly to face him. Don't follow me, man, he said sternly. You only get yourself into trouble. But Parappa! No buts, he said quietly. Well, that wasn't quietly at all. No buts, he said quietly, turning his head to look at the picture on the wall. There was a portrait of Sonny Funny, once his childhood crush, now lying dead in a cemetery. I don't want you to end up like her, man. He kept walking until he reached the door. He began to open it when PJ put a hand on his shoulder. Parappa turned and saw his friend, holding out the gun. "Take it, man," he said softly. "You need it more than I do." "Nah," he said, pushing it away. "I don't need that right now. Not where I'm going. Not with what I'm gonna do." "But Parappa, how the hell do you think you're gonna survive? You think that's easy? You can just say, 'I'm out,' and walk out or something like this? It ain't, man. You gotta do something else." "Yeah, I know," he said, opening the door and grinning. "I gotta believe, right?" And then he slammed the door in PJ's face, and that's the end of that freaking fanfiction. Guys, Parappa the Rapper is supposed to be cheery and happy and doing kung fu and rapping and not, I'm sorry. If you have like a genre-crossing fanfiction or something like that that you think that we should take a read, let us know in the comments, or you can let us know on Tumblr and tag us Collaboracadabra, and we will be quick to answer you. I'm gonna go be sad on my bed now. Financial support, we'll see you tomorrow.